Jake had been living alone in his two-bedroom apartment for 3 months now, and honestly, it was becoming a disaster. Empty pizza boxes were stacked on the kitchen counter like a leaning tower. His laundry pile had grown so tall that he'd started calling it Mount Washmore. The bathroom mirror was so dirty he could barely see his reflection anymore. Working from home as a computer programmer seemed like a dream at first. No commute, no office politics, just him and his computer. But after spending 12 hours a day coding, the last thing he wanted to do was clean his place. He tried hiring help before, but it never worked out. The first cleaner quit after seeing his kitchen. The second one took one look at his bedroom and said she had a family emergency. The third one just never showed up after the first day. Jake was getting desperate. His mom was planning to visit next month, and he couldn't let her see his place. Looking like this, she'd probably faint, then spend the next hour lecturing him about responsibility. He'd already tried cleaning it himself twice, but somehow it always ended up messier than before. That's when he stumbled across something weird while browsing online. Between the usual cleaning service ads, there was this strange website called Universal Home Solutions. The page looked different from the others. It had this weird blue background with tiny stars scattered around, and the font seemed to shimmer when he moved his mouse over it. But what caught his attention was the promise: we handle impossible situations. No home too messy. Available immediately. The whole thing felt a bit sketchy, but Jake was running out of options. He filled out their online form, expecting to get a call in a few days. Instead, his phone rang within 5 minutes. "Hello, this is Luna from Universal Home Solutions," said a voice that sounded oddly formal, like someone reading from a script. "We understand you need domestic assistance." "Yeah, I do," Jake replied, surprised by how quickly they'd responded. "My place is pretty messy, though. The last few cleaners kind of gave up on me." "We did not give up," Luna said with complete confidence. "I can start tomorrow morning at 9. Is this acceptable?" Jake almost dropped his phone. "Tomorrow? That's perfect. But don't you want to know more about the job? Like how big the place is, or what kind of cleaning needs to be done?" I am very good at adapting," Luna said simply. "I will bring all necessary supplies. Please have your key ready." The call ended abruptly, leaving Jake staring at his phone. He hadn't even told her his address, but somehow he felt like she already knew where he lived. Maybe they had some kind of GPS tracking system. These days, everything was high-tech. The next morning, Jake was sipping his coffee and checking emails when his doorbell rang. He glanced at the clock. Exactly 9 o'clock. He had to admit, she was punctual. When Jake opened the door, he had to look up. Luna was tall, really tall, probably around 6 feet. She had this perfect posture that made her seem even taller. Her hair was silver white, pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore large dark sunglasses even though it was cloudy outside. Her outfit was strange too, a perfectly pressed gray uniform that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. "Good morning," she said in that same formal voice from the phone. "I'm Luna. I'm here to provide domestic assistance." "Right, come in," Jake said, stepping aside. "I should probably warn you, it's pretty bad in here," the last cleaner said. It looked like a tornado hit it. Luna walked into his apartment with smooth, gliding steps. She moved like a dancer, each step perfectly measured. She stood in the middle of his living room, slowly turning her head to survey the mess. Jake couldn't see her eyes behind those dark glasses, but he could feel her studying everything. "This is within normal parameters," she said finally. Jake laughed. "Normal? You should see what my mom would say about this place." Luna tilted her head slightly, as if trying to understand the concept of mothers having opinions about cleanliness. "I will begin with standard procedures," she announced, then reached into her large silver bag. That's when things got weird. Luna pulled out a cleaning spray bottle, but as she lifted it, it slipped from her fingers. Jake watched in slow motion as the bottle fell toward the floor, but instead of just bending down to pick it up normally, Luna did something extraordinary. She moved like she was underwater. Every movement was incredibly slow and fluid. She gracefully lowered herself, her arms moving in perfect curves, her body bending with impossible elegance. It took her nearly 30 seconds to pick up the bottle, and during that entire time, Jake found himself completely mesmerized. "Sorry," Luna said as she straightened up, though she didn't sound sorry at all. "Sometimes objects do not cooperate with gravity." Jake blinked. "No problem. Happens to everyone." But as Luna began cleaning, it kept happening. She'd drop a cloth, then perform that same slow-motion dance to retrieve it. A sponge would slip from her grasp, leading to another graceful, extended bending routine. Each time, Jake found himself stopping whatever he was doing to watch. There was something hypnotic about the way she moved. It wasn't clumsy at all. It was like watching a ballet performance in extreme slow motion. Her movements were so smooth and deliberate that they seemed almost otherworldly. "Do you have some kind of back problem?" Jake asked during one of her slow retrievals. "I mean, if you need to move carefully." "I totally understand." Luna paused in her slow-motion ascent, holding a drop pen. "Back problem?" she repeated, as if the concept was foreign to her. "No. This is normal movement speed for people like me. People like you, tall people," Luna said quickly. "Very tall people must move slowly to avoid injury." Jake nodded, though something about her explanation felt off. He'd known plenty of tall people, and none of them moved, like they were performing underwater choreography. As the morning progressed, Jake tried to focus on his work, but it was impossible. Every few minutes, there would be another soft thud as Luna dropped something, followed by her mesmerizing slow-motion performance. His cat, Pixel, seemed equally fascinated. The usually aloof feline followed Luna around the apartment, sitting perfectly still whenever she began one of her graceful descents. By lunchtime, Jake realized two things. First, Luna was an incredible cleaner. His apartment was transforming before his eyes. Second, he was becoming completely distracted by her strange behavior. During a video call with his team, he found himself staring past his computer screen as Luna slowly, elegantly retrieved a fallen dust cloth. "Jake, are you listening?" his colleague asked through the screen. "What? Oh, yeah, sorry. Just thought I heard something." But Jake knew he hadn't heard anything. He'd been watching something that was becoming more intriguing by the hour. As Luna prepared to leave that afternoon, she gathered her supplies with the same fluid grace she'd shown all day. She only dropped one item during cleanup, a small towel. But her retrieval performance was the most elaborate yet, involving what appeared to be a small twirl. "Same time tomorrow?" Jake asked as she reached the door. "Yes," Luna replied, adjusting her dark sunglasses. "Tomorrow I will focus on the kitchen area. There may be more gravity incidents." After she left, Jake sat in his newly cleaned living room, trying to process what he'd witnessed. His apartment looked amazing, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening. Normal people didn't drop things that often, and they definitely didn't turn picking up a pen into a 30-second interpretive dance. He pulled out his phone and did a quick search for Universal Home Solutions, but the website seemed to have vanished when he tried to call the number Luna had used. It went straight to a voicemail message in a language he didn't recognize. Jake looked at Pixel, who was still staring at the door where Luna had exited. "What do you think, buddy? Is our new cleaner just really clumsy? Or is something else going on here?" Pixel meowed once, then walked over to the exact spot where Luna had performed her most elaborate drop hand retrieve routine. He sat down and stared at the floor, as if expecting another performance. Jake had to admit, he was kind of expecting one too. The next morning, Jake found himself actually looking forward to Luna's arrival. He'd woken up early and tidied his desk, which was weird because he never did that. He told himself it was just because he wanted to make her job easier. But deep down, he was curious to see if yesterday's strange behavior would continue. At exactly 9 o'clock, his doorbell rang again. When Jake opened the door, Luna stood there in the same gray uniform, same dark sunglasses, same perfect posture. But today, something felt different about her presence. "Good morning," she said in that formal tone. "I will focus on kitchen area today, as discussed." As Luna glided into his apartment, Jake noticed his houseplant looked different. The small fern he'd been slowly killing for months was now bright green, and seemed to have grown several inches overnight. He stared at it, confused. Had it always been that healthy? Did you do something to my plant yesterday? Jake asked. Luna paused and tilted her head toward the fern. Plants require proper care. I provided water. Just water? Water is essential for plant life, Luna replied, which wasn't really an answer. Jake decided to let it go and settled at his computer to start work. But within minutes, the dropping started again. This time, it was a spray bottle that somehow slipped from Luna's grasp as she approached the kitchen sink. What followed was even more mesmerizing than yesterday's performances. Luna began her slow descent, but today her movements seemed even, more fluid and graceful. She bent down like she was moving through thick honey, her arms creating perfect arcs in the air. Jake found himself timing it on his phone, 35 seconds from drop to retrieval. Luna, can I ask you something? Jake said as she finally straightened up. You may ask, she replied, clutching the spray bottle carefully. Are you a dancer? Like, professionally? Luna stood very still for a moment. I am skilled in movement arts. Yes, it is part of my training. Training for cleaning, training for interaction with different environments. Jake nodded, though her answer raised more questions than it answered. What kind of cleaning company trained their employees in dance? And why did she always wear those dark sunglasses indoors? As the morning progressed, Jake started keeping a mental count. By 10:30, Luna had dropped 7 different items. Each time, she performed the same ritualistic slow-motion retrieval, and each time, Jake found himself completely distracted from his work. During a video conference with his team, disaster struck, just as Jake was presenting his weekly progress report. Luna dropped the kitchen towel right in his line of sight as she began her graceful descent. Jake's eyes automatically followed her movements. Jake, are you still with us? His manager's voice came through the speakers. Oh, yeah, sorry. Jake struggled to focus on the screen. I was just thinking about the database optimization. The what? You were talking about the user interface updates. Jake felt his face getting hot, right? The interface. He tried to continue his presentation, but Luna was now moving in what appeared to be slow-motion circles as she cleaned the kitchen counter. It was like watching a meditation exercise performed underwater. Jake, you seem distracted today. Everything okay at home? Everything's fine, Jake said quickly, forcing himself to look at his computer screen. Just some minor distractions. After the call ended, Jake realized he had a serious problem. Luna's presence was affecting his ability to work, and he couldn't figure out why. It wasn't just the dropping, it was everything about her. The way she moved, the way she spoke, even the way she stood perfectly still when she wasn't cleaning around. Noon, Jake decided to grab some lunch from the kitchen. As he walked past Luna, he noticed something odd about his electronics. His microwave display was flickering, showing random numbers instead of the time. His coffee maker was making a weird humming sound it had never made before. Luna, did you touch my appliances? She looked up from wiping the counter with impossibly slow movements. I cleaned around them. Modern devices sometimes react to proper cleaning techniques. React how? They become more responsive. Jake stared at his microwave, which was now displaying what looked like symbols instead of numbers. This doesn't look more responsive. This looks broken. Luna approached the microwave and placed her hand near it, not quite touching. The display immediately returned to normal, showing the correct time. Better, she asked. Jake blinked. How did you do that? Sometimes electronics need gentle encouragement. Before Jake could ask what that meant, Luna dropped her cleaning cloth. This time, as she began her slow-motion retrieval, Jake paid attention to something else. His cat, Pixel, was sitting perfectly still about 3 feet away, staring at Luna, with an intensity Jake had never seen before. The cat's eyes were wide, and he seemed completely focused on her movements. Pixel likes you, Jake observed. Animals often appreciate proper movement techniques. Luna replied as she finally stood up. They understand rhythm better than most humans. Jake was about to ask what she meant by that when his phone rang. It was his mom. "Hey, Mom," he answered, walking into the living room for privacy. "Hi, honey. I was just calling to check on you. How's the new cleaning lady working out?" Jake glanced toward the kitchen, where Luna was now moving in what appeared to be extremely slow motion while washing dishes. "She's interesting. Interesting how? She's very thorough. And she has this unique way of moving. Well, as long as she's getting the job done. Your apartment better be spotless when I visit next month. It will be, Mom. Don't worry." After hanging up, Jake found himself really watching Luna's technique. She didn't just clean. She seemed to flow around obstacles, never bumping into anything, never making unnecessary movements, except for all the dropping, of course. By afternoon, Jake had counted 15 dropped items. Each retrieval was a performance, and each performance seemed to last a few seconds longer than the previous one. What started as 30-second retrievals in the morning had become 45-second graceful exhibitions by 2 o'clock. The strangest part was that Jake didn't find it annoying. He found it oddly calming. There was something hypnotic about Luna's movements that made him feel relaxed, even when he was supposed to be working. Around 3 o'clock, Jake decided to test something. He pretended to be focused on his computer while secretly watching Luna clean the bookshelf. For 20 minutes, she moved normally, efficiently dusting each shelf. Then, as if on cue, she dropped a small decorative item. What Jake saw next made his heart skip for just a split second before Luna began her slow-motion descent. She glanced directly at him. Even through those dark sunglasses, he could feel her looking at him. Then she performed her most elaborate retrieval yet, adding what appeared to be a small twirl at the end. Jake sat back in his chair, mind racing. Was Luna dropping things on purpose? Was she performing for him? And if so, why? As Luna prepared to leave that afternoon, she gathered her supplies with the same fluid grace as always. But this time, Jake noticed something else. She packed everything perfectly on the first try. No dropped items, no fumbling, no slow-motion movements. Her coordination was flawless. "Same time tomorrow?" Jake asked as she reached the door. "Yes," Luna replied, adjusting her dark sunglasses. "Tomorrow I will focus on the bathroom area. It may require more careful movements." After she left, Jake sat in his sparkling clean kitchen, trying to make sense of what he'd witnessed. His apartment looked incredible, but his mind was full of questions. Why did Luna only drop things when he was around? Why did his electronics act weird when she was near? And why did she always wear those sunglasses indoors? He looked at Pixel, who was now sitting in the exact spot where Luna had performed her most elaborate retrieval. The cat was staring at the door with the same intense focus he'd shown all day. "You know something, don't you?" Jake asked his cat, Pixel. Meow once, then walked over to the bookshelf where Luna had dropped the decorative item. He sat down and looked up at the spot, as if expecting another performance. Jake had to admit, he was kind of expecting one too. In fact, he was already looking forward to tomorrow's show. The next morning, Jake woke up with a plan. He'd spent most of the night thinking about everything that had happened, and he decided it was time for honest answers. He couldn't keep pretending that Luna's behavior was normal, and clearly, she was struggling with whatever secret she was keeping. When Luna arrived at 9 o'clock, Jake was waiting by the door with 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning," he said, offering her one of the cups. "I thought maybe we could talk before you start cleaning today." Luna stared at the coffee cup like it might explode. "I do not usually consume beverages during work hours. It's not work hours yet," Jake said gently. "Consider it a coffee break before the coffee break." Luna hesitantly took the cup but didn't drink from it. She followed Jake to the living room, where he'd arranged the chairs facing each other. "Luna, I need to ask you something, and I'd really appreciate an honest answer," Jake began. "Are you human?" The coffee cup slipped from Luna's hands and crashed to the floor, sending hot coffee everywhere. But this time, she didn't perform her slow-motion retrieval dance. Instead, She stared at Jake with what appeared to be panic behind those dark sunglasses. "That is an unusual question," she said, her voice slightly higher than normal. "It's an unusual situation," Jake replied. "I've been watching you for 3 days now. You drop things constantly, but only when I'm looking. You move like you're underwater when you pick stuff up. My electronics go crazy when you're around. My plant has grown more in 3 days than it did in 3 months. And my cat follows you around like you're some kind of magic person." Luna remained silent, apparently frozen in place. "Plus," Jake continued, "I found forum posts online. Other people describing the exact same thing. Tall cleaning ladies who wear sunglasses indoors and have a weird relationship with gravity. All hired through companies that don't seem to exist." Luna slowly reached up and, for the first time since Jake had met her, removed her dark sunglasses. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Luna's eyes were unlike anything he'd ever seen. They were large and silver, with flecks of blue that seemed to move like tiny stars. They were beautiful, but definitely not human. "You are very observant," Luna said, her formal tone softening slightly. "So you're not human," Jake stated, surprised by how calm he felt about this revelation. "No," Luna replied simply. "I'm not from this world." Jake leaned back in his chair, processing this information. Part of him wanted to panic, but mostly he felt relieved. Finally, an explanation that made sense. "Where are you from?" he asked. "A planet you would call Kepler-4 to be. It is very far from here. And you're here to clean apartments?" Luna almost smiled at that. "Not exactly. I'm what you might call a cultural observer. My people have been studying human domestic life to understand your species better. By pretending to be housekeepers, we chose domestic work because we believe the way people treat their helpers reveals their true character," Luna explained. "Many humans are kind to their friends and family, but how they treat service workers shows who they really are." Jake thought about that. "So this whole time, you've been testing me, in a way, yes, but also learning about human behavior and customs, and the dropping things?" Luna looked embarrassed. "That is our way of communicating. On my world, we express ourselves through movement. The slower and more deliberate our movements, the more respect and peaceful intentions we show. So when you do that slow-motion dance, I have been trying to tell you that I mean no harm, and that I enjoy being here." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. "You enjoy being here. Very much. Your kindness and patience, even when confused by my behavior, show me that humans can be good people." Many of the other observers have not had such positive experiences. Other observers? "There are several of us, placed in different homes across your city. We report back to our people about human domestic customs and relationships." Jake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street. "Are you planning to invade or something?" "Invade?" Luna sounded genuinely shocked. "No, we are a peaceful people. We simply want to understand humans before we make official contact." "Official contact?" Luna joined him at the window. "My people believe it is time to introduce ourselves to humanity, but we wanted to understand your culture first, to avoid misunderstandings." Jake turned to look at her, without the sunglasses. Luna seemed more real, more vulnerable. "So what happens now? Do you go back to your planet and report that humans are okay?" "That depends," Luna said quietly. "On what?" "On whether you would be willing to help us." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Help? You how?" Luna took a deep breath. The other observers have struggled to connect with their assigned humans. Some have been fired. Others have been treated poorly. You are the first human to show genuine kindness and curiosity instead of suspicion or fear. "What are you asking me to do?" "My superiors want to meet with a human representative before making official contact. Someone who understands our peaceful intentions and can help bridge the gap between our species." Jake stared at her. "You want me to be humanity's first ambassador to aliens? In simple terms, yes." Jake walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. "This is a lot to process. I understand if you need time to think about it." "Actually," Jake said, surprising himself, "I don't think I do need time. This is probably the most important decision anyone has ever been asked to make, and somehow, it feels right. Luna's silver eyes lit up. You will help us. On one condition. What condition? Jake grinned. You have to promise me that when you meet with world leaders and important people, you won't do the slow-motion dropping thing. I don't think they'll understand it the way I do. Luna laughed, and the sound was like silver bells chiming. I promise to explain our communication methods clearly before demonstrating them. Good. And Luna? Yes. Can you still be my housekeeper? Because honestly, you're the best cleaner I've ever had. Even with all the dropping, Luna smiled broadly. I would be honored to continue cleaning your home, Jake, though I should warn you, there may be more unusual visitors in the future. Bring them on, Jake said. After 3 days of wondering if I was going crazy, I think I can handle anything. Pixel chose that moment to walk into the living room. He looked at Luna, then at Jake, then sat down in his usual spot and began purring loudly. I think Pixel approves, Jake observed. Animals often sense the truth before humans do, Luna said. He knew what I was from the beginning. As Jake looked at Luna's genuine smile and Pixel's contented purring, he realized his life was about to become very different. But somehow, that didn't scare him. It excited him, after all. How many people get the chance to help two worlds understand each other? And besides, he'd always known there was something special about Luna. He just hadn't expected it to be this special. 3 weeks later, Jake's life had become wonderfully weird in ways he never could have imagined. Luna still came to clean his apartment every day, but now their relationship had evolved into something much more interesting than employer and employee. She was his friend, his cultural exchange partner, and apparently, his gateway to intergalactic diplomacy. The biggest change was that Luna no longer felt the need to hide her true nature. Around Jake, she still wore her gray uniform and moved with that signature grace, but now Jake understood why. On her planet, precise movements were considered both beautiful and respectful. What he'd initially thought was clumsiness was actually Luna's way of showing him honor. Today, I have news, Luna announced as she arrived for work, her silver eyes sparkling with excitement. Good news or bad news? Jake asked, looking up from his computer. Very good news. My superiors have agreed to the meeting. Jake's heart skipped a beat. For 3 weeks, Luna had been communicating with her people, explaining human customs and vouching for Jake's character. The idea of actual first contact had seemed abstract until now. When? He asked. Tomorrow night. They will arrive at the park near your building at midnight. Midnight? That's very mysterious alien of them, Luna laughed. They chose midnight because there will be fewer humans around. My people prefer quiet environments for important meetings. Jake saved his work and closed his laptop. Okay, so what do I need to know? Do I bring gifts? Do I bow? Do I need to learn any special greeting rituals? Just be yourself, Luna said, beginning her daily cleaning routine. That is why they chose you. Your natural kindness and curiosity represent the best of humanity. As Luna began dusting the bookshelf, Jake watched her movements with new appreciation. Now that he understood her culture, her graceful motions looked like a form of meditation. She no longer dropped things accidentally, but she would occasionally perform what she called greeting dances when she was particularly happy about something. Luna, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you miss your home? Luna paused in her dusting, considering the question. I miss my family and the familiar sights of my world, but I have grown very fond of Earth, and especially of humans. Like you, humans like me, humans who are willing to accept differences, who show kindness to strangers, who can find humor in unusual situations. Luna smiled. When I first arrived, I was nervous about this assignment, but you made me feel welcome, even when you thought I was just a clumsy cleaning lady. Jake felt that warm feeling in his chest again. You were never just anything, Luna. Even before I knew what you were, there was something special about you. That afternoon, Luna introduced Jake to something new. She taught him basic greetings in her language, which sounded like a combination of wind chimes and flowing water. She also explained some of the cultural concepts he'd need to understand for the meeting. My people value patience above all else. Luna explained as they practiced. When you meet my superiors, they may take long pauses between sentences. This is not awkwardness. This is them showing respect by considering their words carefully. Got it? Patience and respect. Also, they may want to observe your daily routines before speaking with you. Do not be alarmed if they ask to watch you prepare food or interact with Pixel. They want to watch me make a sandwich? Food preparation is considered very intimate in our culture. How someone prepares and shares food reveals much about their character. Jake looked over at Pixel, who was sprawled across his favorite sunny spot on the carpet. What about Pixel? Should I be worried about him? Animals often react positively to my people. Pixel will likely be fascinated rather than frightened. That evening, Jake found himself more nervous than excited. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. Tomorrow night, he would be representing all of humanity in Earth's first official contact with an alien species. No pressure at all, Luna, he said as she prepared to leave for the day. What if I mess this up? What if I say something wrong and accidentally start an intergalactic incident? Luna placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Jake, you have been kind and patient with me every day for 3 weeks. Even when my behavior confused you, you accepted the truth about my identity without fear or anger. You offered to help my people before you knew what that meant. You will not mess this up. The next day passed slowly. Jake tried to work, but concentration was impossible. Luna seemed to understand his nervousness and spent extra time explaining what to expect. She also performed several of her graceful movement sequences, which she said would help calm his mind. These movements are like your meditation, she explained. They help center our thoughts and emotions. Jake tried to copy her motions, feeling somewhat ridiculous as he attempted slow-motion arm waves in his living room. But surprisingly, the movements did help him feel calmer. As midnight approached, Jake and Luna walked to the small park near his apartment building. The night was clear, with stars visible despite the city lights. They sat on a bench to wait, and Jake found himself staring up at the sky, wondering which of those distant points of light was Luna's home. Are you ready? Luna asked softly. I think so. Are you nervous about seeing your people again? A little. They may not approve of how attached I have become to Earth customs. Before Jake could ask what she meant, a soft humming filled the air. Looking up, they saw 3 figures descending from the sky, moving with the same fluid grace as Luna, but glowing with a soft silver light. They're beautiful, Jake whispered. The 3 beings landed silently in front of the bench, like Luna. They were tall and elegant, with silver eyes and an otherworldly presence. But unlike Luna, they moved with perfect synchronization, as if they were parts of a single organism. The center figure stepped forward and spoke in Luna's language, the words sounding like gentle music. Luna responded, then turned to Jake. They say they are honored to meet the human who showed kindness to one of their observers. Jake stood up, remembering Luna's instructions about showing respect. Tell them I'm honored to meet them too, and that Luna has taught me so much about the beauty of their culture. Luna translated, and all 3 beings performed what appeared to be a slow-motion bow. Jake awkwardly attempted to copy the movement, which seemed to please them. What followed was the most surreal conversation of Jake's life. Through Luna's translations, he learned that her people had been observing Earth for decades, waiting for the right time to make contact. They were a peaceful species who had learned from their own mistakes about rushing into relationships with other worlds. The beings asked Jake about human concepts like friendship, trust, and cooperation. They wanted to understand how humans formed relationships and resolved conflicts. They were particularly interested in his relationship with Luna, and how he reacted to learning her true identity. Tell them, Jake said, that the best relationships start with understanding and acceptance. Luna and I became friends because we were both willing to be curious about each other, instead of afraid. After the translation, the 3 beings exchanged what appeared to be satisfied looks. The center figure spoke again, and Luna's eyes widened. What did they say? Jake asked. Luna turned to him with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They want to offer you a choice. They can arrange for official contact with human governments, with you as the initial ambassador, Or she paused, or what, or you can continue as you are, learning about both cultures, while they gradually introduce more observers to willing humans. A slower approach, building understanding one relationship at a time. Jake thought about it for a moment, asked them what they think would be better for both our peoples. After another musical exchange, Luna smiled. They say the choice should be yours because you understand both worlds now. Jake looked at Luna, then at her people, then up at the stars. I think, he said slowly, that the best relationships take time to build. Maybe we should start small, with more people like Luna, getting to know more people like me. Build trust gradually. The beings performed another synchronized bow, and Jake could sense their approval as they prepared to leave. The center figure approached Jake directly and spoke in careful English. Thank you for showing kindness to our Luna. You have given us hope for friendship between our peoples. After they departed, Jake and Luna walked back to his apartment in comfortable silence. Finally, Jake spoke. So, what happens now? Now, Luna said with a smile, I continue being your housekeeper, and you continue being my friend, and gradually, more of my people will arrive to learn about humans, and you'll help them understand that dropping things is not the best way to communicate with most humans. Luna laughed. I will definitely include that in my reports. As they reached Jake's building, he realized that his life would never be normal again. But looking at Luna's happy face and thinking about the gentle beings he just met, he decided that normal was overrated anyway. After all, how many people got to be friends with someone from another world? And besides, his apartment had never been cleaner.